Today is episode 85. If you're still tuning in after 85 weeks, I love you. Yes, it's good stuff. Today's topic is about money, and who isn't interested in talking about money? Stop saying you don't care about money. Tom, you're at the gym. Are you on the treadmill? Running and texting and typing and... I'm not a two-thumb texter. I don't know why I just did this. I'm a single-thumb guy. I'm a little slow, but my kids can just... And Mary, too, they type probably 85 words a minute with two thumbs. Whoa, look at that. It just was the 4th of July on my screen. I don't know how that happened. And Tom says he loves money. Yes, money allows us to do things, take care of our bills and our families, and we need walking around money and possibly consider your future. Anyway, today is National Vanilla Ice Cream Day. So we got that going for us. Maybe that would be good on a hot day like this. So National Vanilla Ice Cream Day. It is also Peanut Butter and Chocolate Day. And I'm pretty sure it was a discussion I was having with Cliff and Luke as we were driving is your chocolate fell on my peanut butter. Your peanut butter got into my chocolate. And we were thinking about those Reese's peanut butter cup commercials from 30 some years ago. Does anybody remember that? Here's one that's very strange. It is National Gorgeous Grandma Day. Whose grandma isn't gorgeous? It is also, this is the kicker. Are you ready for this? Today is National Is It Hot Enough For You Day. Well, yeah, of course it is. So there you go. National Is It Hot Enough For You Day. I'm not making this stuff up because it's on Google and it's all true, right? Everything on the internet is true. All right, so lots going on. There is a lot of stuff happening. So I was going to talk about stuff that's coming up in the next couple weeks and the stuff that's happened over the past week. Really awesome stuff, because I think my topic about money will probably be short. No, actually, that's a topic that could go on for a very long time. So let's go through this cool stuff that's coming up and happening. My wife, the producer. Everybody knows who Mary Fisher is, I think, these days. Mary Fisher is the rock star of the house. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. And it's in the early mid-90s, and Midline was on the radio a lot. Of course, we were recognized easily around town. And so you would get stopped on the street quite often and say, hey, aren't you the drummer for Midline? And if so, where's your singer? Because they always wanted to know where Anthony was. Now, when we go around town, people are starting to stop us and they recognize Mary. And they want to hang out with Mary and talk to Mary. And I think that's really, really cool. And I just kind of hang in the back. So, yeah. Her band that she sings with, Casio Dreams, the all 80s synth pop tribute band. They're kind of the happening thing these days in the Treasure Valley. And good for them. Well deserved. And, they're doing all the right stuff. Friday, I finally connected with the powers that be at Aquarian Drumheads and got the official word that I am now endorsed by Aquarian Drumheads, which was super cool. I have a Vader drumstick endorsement. That was a big deal for me as well. And the guys at Aquarian are super cool and they're going to be amazing to deal with. I was on the phone with him for quite some time, just kind of getting to know each other. And So now I need to send him my bio and some pictures and stuff, because they'll create an artist page on their website, as they do for all their artists, and we're going to go from there. So it's really nice to have that support. Daniel, what does Daniel say? Is Aquarian coming out with a signature Fred Super Kick 3? To my knowledge, not yet. But they do have a Super Kick 3, I believe. It might be called the Triple Threat. I don't really know, because there's certain drum heads that I use all the time, and that's kind of the world I live in. So I use the Super Kick 2. The Super Kick 1 is amazing, but it's a single ply head, and I kind of tend to go through that much quicker than the Super Kick 2. So Force 10s on the toms, classic clear on the bottom, and I like the gray texture coated reflector snare head. All right, let's talk about music and money. Let's talk about that. If you guys got comments or anything, definitely weigh in. I'm going to start talking about this, and then there'll be people who will be late to the conversation, and then they'll probably interject with something weird. So here's the saying that I hear a lot is, I don't care about the money. And I usually hear that phrase when it comes from musicians. I've yet to come across somebody who does landscaping, because I used to be a landscaper. I rarely came across anybody who was working that hard who said they didn't care about the money. Or any profession for that matter. If you're a roofer, I'm sure those roofers who are working in this heat right now, I bet they care about the money that they make. And maybe some people love that job. So they want to be compensated here. But the bottom line is, we all need money to live, to support ourselves, to support for me specifically, support me, support my wife, support my kids, pay for my mortgage, pay my bills, and then hopefully have some money to squirrel away, and some money for, I call it walking around money, but money for entertainment, like going out to eat, or, whatever you need to purchase. Sometimes you need a little mad money, because you might have ridiculous things that we purchase. All that to say, in order to be able to do that, you have to have an income from something. So when it comes to musicians saying, I don't care about the money, my experience is those who say that are also the ones who typically complain about how little they get paid from a gig. Now look, I'm trying to paint in very broad strokes here, okay? Because we could get into countless little situations of why or why not you would get paid for playing music. Greg, what are you saying? I need to... Life costs money. It's like an existence rental. Yeah. So, I think a lot of us get into music because we love music, but we weren't thinking like, oh, could this be a career? Could this be a way of supporting myself? Could I be a rock star? That was my thinking for a long time, was I wanted to be a rock star, and everything would just work out. And, it didn't quite work that way. And then some people have an attitude of the starving artist. Like, if you're really true to yourself and true to the art, then you shouldn't get paid, or you shouldn't care if you get paid or not. James is here. Hello, James. James says those that say they don't care are often getting their income from outside of music. Yes, that's true as well. Yes, that's also true. I wouldn't say that making money in the music business is easy. because it is work is work, I just happen to love my work. But James is right. Sometimes people have their day job of whatever they do, whatever that is, and that is their thing that pays for all of those things I mentioned earlier. And so when they go and play music, their motivation isn't, I need this to make my mortgage payment. They just enjoy playing music, and that situation is fine. That's completely fine. And so that's one of those little trails to go down where you could go, well, Fred, they have this going for them, so they don't really need that, and they can just play and have fun. And that's fine too. I just think it's interesting when I'm getting more about the people who say they don't care about the money, but they tend to be the ones who complain about not getting paid or getting paid well, or think that it's impossible to get paid well to play music. So this conversation would be more aimed for that approach. Greg says, Dr. Lawyer, Weekend Warrior. Yeah, there's those. I'm just kind of scanning my notes here really quick. So, like I mentioned, I got into music because I fell in love with drumming, and I was 10 years old at that time. And so having any thought of having my own wife and a house and any of that stuff never even crossed my mind. I just loved playing music, and I loved playing the drums, and I was very passionate about that. And I know that probably is the case for a lot of my musician friends who fell in love with music and their instrument early. And that's been a large part of their life. So sometimes, and I used to live in this world too, is that I never thought it was possible to not only make money playing music, but that would be my main source of my income, until about 3 years ago when that became a reality. So I look back on my life and think, and I can clearly see the mistakes I made along the way and poor decisions. Not that I regret that, and it's easy to kind of get caught up in the past and think about what could have been or what should have been. Life just happened, and now here we are. So, I had a big course correction in my life a few years ago, and that's put me on a different path, especially mentally. So, and it was getting the right people involved with my music and my career that helped guide me to this point that I'm in now, and continue to move forward with that. So, again, this conversation is more directed towards the people who say, I don't care about money, and then the next day they're complaining about the club didn't pay them more than $200 or for the whole band or whatever that situation is. Well, you committed to that, and so you made that business decision, and you negotiated that or whatever, and then you complained about it. So I would be careful. My buddy Matt Starr has had a lot to do with my mental focus on what I'm doing, and I've heard him talk about this many times in many different ways, is to be in business. If you want to be in business, be in business. Whoa, I see a door opening and a shadowy person. Look, there's the producer. The producer's there. Well, what can be done about that? Do you want to give away your talents? If so, you have every right to do so if that's what you want to do. Hey, I did this thing to help out a friend. Cool. I played this concert with no financial reasoning. Okay, fine. Cool. But don't say that you don't care about money and then turn around and post the next day about, man, we played this club and they totally stiffed us, and don't ever go there again. No, you made that agreement with them. Honor that. Honor that. Don't be the person saying, I don't care about money. Here's another thing that I'd like to scratch the surface on, because I've talked about, Midline's going to release this song on Thursday. Now, it's a cover song, and so for the streaming purposes, or licensing, we had to get permission in order to do this song, and so there's a few more legalities connected to it because we didn't write the song. And so we took all the necessary steps in order to do that correctly, and wanted to make sure that we were dotting our I's and crossing our T's on our end, and everything's fine. And yeah, there was a fee to be able to do that as well, which is fine, that's what we agreed to do. But when it comes to music, playing live or streaming, how much of our talent and time do we want to give away for next to nothing, or free for that matter? Now, everything that I'm going to say about the digital world, I don't think anything that I personally is going to say is going to change anything. I'm just sharing my thoughts and feelings on this. How musicians make money. This I don't care about money thing. Well, look, music is my full-time job, and so I do care about money, and that doesn't mean that I don't love my job. I do love my job, but as a musician, I have to have multiple streams of income. It's not just from one place. So it's teaching lessons, it's recording drums for people, or offering our studio as a recording facility, which the producer here runs so much of that, and she's the key to the success of that. The other is playing live with different bands. Mainly recently, over the last couple of years, has been Cliff Miller for me, which has been great. And I think I talked about Cliff a little bit in the last couple of weeks about having gratitude for somebody that's working so hard that benefits me. And I think that's really important to thank those people in our lives that are making it possible to work. And Cliff has definitely done that for me, so it's awesome. So Mary had me start watching this mini movie series about Spotify. I think the name of it's called Playlist. So if you haven't seen this on Netflix, I highly encourage you to start watching it. Because it can make you happy, it can make you sad, it can make you mad. It'll run the gamut of emotions, what's happening there. So let's look at today's landscape of music and where your money comes from. In the good old days, you would sell records. And, you could be an artist signed to a record label, and they are spending the huge amounts of money to push your song to radio and promoting your music to a global audience, and then sell physical copies of the music, records, cassettes, CDs, whatever we were in the timeline of, better quality sound, and so on and so forth. So, you had CDs. We didn't just grab the music off the internet. Well, now album sales are minus vinyl records, which is more of a novelty thing than anything else. Vinyl records is the number one selling physical format of music, which I think is awesome. But, you could be an independent artist too and spend all this money to write and record and release music independently, which Midline's been a part of that for 30 years, minus the one record we had that was on a record label, which ended up being a disaster. but I digress. So, yeah. So what does that look like now? Well, nobody's saving up their money to go buy the latest album from their favorite band. It's just going to come out on streaming. Like I said, with Midline, we have a pre-save thing that's coming out, and boom, you have it. And it didn't cost you anything necessarily. I mean, it didn't cost you, $10 to $20 in order to have an album from the band, or it didn't cost you $1.99 to get that song. It's just part of your subscription that you pay for. So Rick Beato talked about this on one of his shows recently, and it went viral. There was a few things tied to it, but one point that he made, which I agree with, is that it's getting harder for artists to have an income because there aren't record sales. You pay, I don't know, was it $12, $15 to have a subscription to Spotify? And with that subscription, you have access to endless works by musicians. And, you could just pick that one song from that one band, and then you make your playlists and all of those things. In the old days of high school, we would make a mixtape. And there was a lot of time involved in making your little mixtape, which was great. But I think there's something so lost in the experience now. When I was mowing lawns as a kid and teenage years working at the movie theater and things like that, if I wanted to buy a CD was like $15, $20, which was a big deal for me at that time. So, I would know that Def Leppard was going to release a new record, or who was I really into at that time? Queensryche. Queensryche would have a new CD coming out. I remember going and buying Empire, and that would be like late 80s, 87, 88, maybe, somewhere in there. Going to Music Land and grabbing that cash out of my wallet that I had to save up for that $20. There was that experience of waiting for the album to come out and then buying it and then racing home, because I didn't have a CD player in my car, but going home and putting that in and just immersing myself in the experience of listening to that music. That doesn't really exist anymore. I'm sure probably there might be a small percentage that does that. I think there's always going to be that. But now, if you hear a new song, like, oh, I want to play you this new song. And we're so distracted because we're holding our phone at the same time. We're texting somebody. Like, we have so much going on, so much multitasking happening that we can't just sit and focus on listening to a song. And then if you are trying to listen to a song, it's like, oh, it's over 3 minutes. I don't know if I, want to keep listening. And they're like, oh, that's cool. They don't, our attention span is so short. It's unfortunate, I think, to be in that spot. So at any rate, all of us musicians, not all of us, but most of us are putting our music out there to the world after spending an enormous amount of money to put it together. and knowing there's no real return on your investment on putting that music out there. So where does the money come from if you're not going to be selling physical copies of your CD? Well, you can pray for tens of millions of streams so you can make a few $1,000s off of Spotify or whatever platform you're using. Or you can have a killer show that you put together and you go out and play, and you've negotiated with a club or a venue of some sort to be able to showcase your music live, and people come to see you. So there's that. Like I said, for myself, I'm teaching drum lessons, doing studio work and things like that to fill in those gaps where you're not selling music anymore. And then people will generally complain about the cost of ticket sales. Like to go see an artist. I would just be guessing on what it would cost to see Taylor Swift. I know it's hundreds of dollars. But let's say, I don't know, let's just go say you're going to go see a show at Extra Mile Arena and the tickets are $60, where, a couple decades ago it would be 15 or $20 to go see that. Maybe it's $100. I haven't bought a concert ticket in a long time. So, I'm just theorizing a little bit, but let's say it's $100 to go see a band, and that's for the cheap seats. It's very expensive to put a big production on the road. How many tour buses and semi trucks do you have to put diesel in, and the drivers to drive them, and the maintenance on them, and the cost of the production, and then how many people are in the band, and the road crew and the local crew, and all of those things. And then on top of it, you're not selling CDs and music anymore. So now artists are trying to make up for that in their ticket prices. And whoever is buying the show and selling it, they want to make money too. So the venue has to pay for all these people to staff it. And then, whatever it costs to have that venue, there's so much involved with it. And then, the price of merchandise, $25, $30 for a t-shirt or whatever. Things seem expensive, and they are, but artists have to make up for this deficit they have where they're no longer selling physical copies of music, which I think is terrible. I think that's terrible. I can't think of any other job where people go to that they enjoy so much that they don't care if they get paid or not. I don't know of any. But in the arts, for some reason, that is a thing. So stop saying you don't care about the money. Even if you don't legitimately care, stop saying it. I think it's harmful to those who are out there, and getting paid is necessary for them to survive, or better yet, to thrive. If you're just surviving, that's kind of a rough place to be in as well. You want to be thriving. So it means you're getting paid well. You're being compensated well for your time and talent. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. Going back to the Rick Beato thing, and he put that video out, and then there was a bunch of younger people that said this is just an old man yelling at the clouds. Well, they're not well informed with Rick Beato, for one, because he's very current with so much of what he does. But I think he was speaking a lot of truth when it came to music. And part of that was anybody can make music. This is another, I don't want to go too far down this trail, but AI is getting pretty convincing on what it's capable of doing. And, it's getting easy. I call them computer programmers who are making music, not actual musicians who had to learn an instrument. You can program so much of this stuff, and now AI can help generate those things. I just ran across somebody the other day, I don't remember who it was, but they said, I think it was Mark, who plays bass with Cliff Miller, said some family or friends of theirs had sent them this song. I don't know if it was a birthday song or whatever, but they just got on the computer and said, AI, write me a song for Mark and Gina. Boom. Song sent. That quick. So that's kind of a frightening thing. So anybody can make music now. Anybody can release music now. You don't have to be able to sing very well because there's auto-tune. I mean, I'm really going off the deep end from the money thing, but I'm just saying that anybody could do anything anymore. So those who are legitimate artists need to watch your back and watch your wallet. Let's see. talking about Napster, remember when Napster was a thing and Metallica came out and stood up against Napster and said, hey, this is a bad deal. This is going to destroy not only what we do, but what others do. And I think Garth Brooks is another artist that you can't find his music online. And I remember when so many people were being critical of Metallica, saying, this is so stupid. Those guys have millions of dollars. Like, how much money does a person need? It's not up for you to decide how much money you think Metallica needs or doesn't need. They've worked hard to achieve what they've done. I'm sure they've sacrificed a lot of stuff, being on the road for so long, so often, and making their mark. It doesn't matter if you like them or not. That's what they did. And, now looking back at them saying, no, we're not going to participate in this, and neither should you. I think they were on the right track with that. Well, so what does that mean for Midline, Fred, since you're just releasing a song to Spotify on Thursday? Well, we are in a position specifically with that band that we would rather people hear it than not. And we have plans that might produce fruit on the back end rather than the front end. So that's our thought process with that. And what are our other options? I don't think Midline from Boise, Idaho is going to swing the pendulum so far back the other way that everybody's going to go, oh, okay, we shouldn't do this. I don't know. It's a conundrum for sure, and I'm not sure how you would ever get out of that. It's just adapt or die kind of a situation. Let's see what Greg says. Greg says, digital subscription is such a weird thing to me. I have always liked physical copy, whether it's music, film, books, or basically anything. Yeah, me too. One thing that Rick Beato talked about in his video was having a record collection, like you're curating your own record collection. And then you would get together with friends and you would show off your record collection to your friends and say, hey, do you have the latest whatever? And, oh, no, I don't. Let me check that out. And then they go and buy it too. And you loved your record collection. You were proud of your record collection. And you didn't have every single record in the world on your shelf. We were really dedicated and invested in those bands. And that's something that my soul, I think, really misses, that part of music. Of course, there's a convenience of having everything on your phone and digital. I think it would be nice if we changed for the artist what that costs to have that convenience. And I think globally, we've been giving our time and talents away for too long. And it would be nice to have some kind of course correction in all of that so that the artists can thrive better. I think we all still have an opportunity to listen to snippets of new music or to be suggested to listen to certain music. For example, Midline's done this cover of this Soundgarden song. So if you bought the Soundgarden album and you had it on your phone and you're listening to it, and then Midline was part of one of those suggested things. If you like Soundgarden, maybe you'd like Midline, and then you'd be able to listen to little snippets of our song and go, oh yeah, I'm going to buy that. That's really cool. There's got to be some way to tip things in the favor of the artist better than what they are currently. So I don't know what the answer to that is, but that's my thoughts anyway on that. So stop saying you don't care about music. I mean, stop saying you don't care about money. Yeah. Even if, like James had mentioned, a lot of people have their day gig, and so that's their main income, and they'd be doing fine with or without playing music. So playing music is a love and something they like to do, and Cool. If that's what you're going to go do, awesome. But for those of us who this is our living, we think a little bit differently about all of that. And so we're trying to figure it out on our end as well. Let's see. One more comment here from Mr. Greg. When everything is at one's fingertips at any given time, it devalues it in a fairly high extent. Scarcity is what encourages free market. Yeah. For me, Greg, it was the experience. I'm sure you can relate or would agree. You know, there was something special about grabbing that new album, taking the cellophane wrapper off. You know, so many of us struggled to get those things open, and people have their ways to do that. I was always the one struggling to get mine open. It's handed to somebody else. Here, open this for me. Taking that out, and the first time that you're removing the CD from the disc, it's pretty tight in there. You're like, oh, don't let me break the CD getting it out. And then you spend so much time looking at the photos and looking at the lyrics and seeing who each person in the band was thinking and who wrote what, if that was the case, and just diving into that whole experience is so lost these days. And it makes me a little bit sad, because Mary and I grew up in that era where we did that. And now we see our kids listening to music, but they're not listening to the whole body of work from any one artist. And I think that's a bummer. We live in the world of singles.